What the hell is Lackadaisy? It seems whenever I talk about indie animation projects, especially some of the more popular ones on YouTube, like Spindle Horse or Glitch, there's always one comment that seems to follow me without fail. That being, review Lackadaisy. I swear, this has to be one of, if not my most heavily requested series to cover in a long time, and from what I've seen, it was one of the most highly praised indie projects in a while, with the pilot getting a lot of good reviews to people calling it a masterpiece. Despite its few controversies, because I guess no matter who you are, every indie animation project has to have some form of controversy. But today, I'm not going to be judging it off that. I'm going to be going into this series pilot and give a fair review of everything in there. And I'm going to ask the question, is the hype deserved for this series? Or perhaps, is it another failure waiting to happen? Hey guys, it's the Pink King here. And today, we are finally going to be talking about Lackadaisy. But what the heck is Lackadaisy? Now, unlike a lot of other projects I've covered, I actually did watch the pilot to this when it first released 2 years ago, but I never really got a lot of interest in it and quickly forgot about it soon after I watched it. But despite the pilot coming out 2 years ago, it turns out that this series was based on a comic. Created by Tracy J. Butler in 2006, Lackadaisy first started out as a webcomic series that eventually got crowdfunded into an animated pilot, with the hopes that a series about it would follow suit. But despite the years since the pilot, not much progress has been made on it, at least that we know of, as outside of a preview there's not been much happening. Even though originally it was suspected to start airing in early 2025, we're now basically halfway through the year, so oof. But ever since then, very little has been shared on this project. So today, for the sake of fair judgment, I'm only going to be reviewing the pilot, as that pretty much is the most concrete thing we have to go off for now. Now, rewatching the pilot, a few things actually did stand out to me right off the bat. That being, of course, first off, the animation. It's quite frankly, its most impressive aspect. It's incredibly charming, with a lot of neat details that you will only find if you pay really close attention, like the little sketch outlines that you see inside the characters sometimes. To me, that's such a nice little detail that brings this sort of stuff to life and makes it more interesting. To me, that's such a nice addition that makes this style feel very unique. As with art, it's often perceived flaws like this that make the art feel much more natural and human. I don't know, there's something about that that really just gets to me. I like it. So visually, this pilot is very stunning, with a real sense of colour and artistry. Like, I swear, some of these shots, marvellous, genuinely beautiful. But another thing I noticed was the music, because honestly, this was my favourite part to the entire pilot. With the setting being set in the 1920s Prohibition, the music definitely matches that setting, with a lot of variations of blues, classical, and using several instruments. The sound of this pilot was very interesting, as there's quite frankly nothing like it in animation currently. It's such a unique feeling and experience. And so I have to give a lot of props to the composers of this pilot, because not only did it sound incredible, but the music helped to tell the story and really helped to put us into this world. And that's something only the best of composers can really do. That's when the music helps tell the story. When it does that, you know you've got something special here. But despite all of my praise, I will say 2 years ago, when I first saw this pilot, I was initially very confused as to why the characters were cats. And that's mainly because it didn't make sense to me. Like, this is a story that could have been told with people. There's not much instances for cats, so what's the deal? And initially I was kind of annoyed at this idea, because it's something that has bothered me in many animated projects, especially with movies now, where they'll just tell a story that could have been played with humans, but in a lazy attempt to try and stand out from the crowd, will ultimately make their characters animals for no reason. Like, it won't benefit the plot, it won't benefit the story, or the characters, they're just for some reason animals. Like Sing. That film had no reason for it to star animals. You could have switched each character with a person and nothing changes. The world is the same, the characters are the same, the story is the same, and that's just bleh, boring. And to me, that just comes across as blatant laziness because they don't believe in what they're trying to do, so they have to add a gimmick to it. The only way I see animal characters work is in a similar vein to another animated animal movie from 2016, Zootopia. That movie, to me, felt like it used the anthropomorphic animal idea really well, with not only the characters matching their species, but the fact that they're animals plays into the story and the world building. Like, everywhere you go in Zootopia, it feels like it's made for animals. Like, if you suddenly put humans in there, it wouldn't fit. When you make the humanoid animal factor feel necessary or like it has a purpose, that is when it's done right. So, where does Lackadaisy fall into all this? Now, despite my initial confusion about this aspect a few years ago, I do have to say, I understand it now. Seeing as it takes place during the Prohibition, a time known for its combination of extremely rough and ragged conditions and the occasional wealthy criminals, I will say that cats fit this description perfectly, as not only are they extremely varied to allow for a lot more creative designs that match each character's personality, but they also work to show us what each class of every character is. So while initially skeptical, I'm a big fan of the way they went about handling these characters. And speaking of the characters, while we don't get to see much of them, we definitely get a good impression of what most of the characters will probably be like. And that's a good thing when you're able to just figure out the type of person a character is, and you just want to see more of them from just a few moments they give you. That's when you know they're doing something right here. The only thing, however, that I would have to give them criticism for with this pilot, the only real problem I had would be the pacing. Because honestly, it starts out very nicely, with them getting the moonshine, the car chase, and the final explosion in the scrapyard. It all felt very natural, I liked that, but it was after that that things suddenly take a massive dip, with the plot slowing down and eventually start to drag eventually. But I get it, it serves its purpose, trying to introduce as many characters as possible, but to me, I just felt a bit weird to have this major high and then just have a really long ending that feels like it just keeps going. It feels like they had the perfect opportunity to end it slightly earlier, save some of the stuff they did use for the actual series, but they kept going for just a little bit too long. And when it did actually end, it was kind of like a head scratching moment, like, oh, we're gonna just end it there. It felt very anticlimactic. So while the pacing's not awful, it's a bit inconsistent. I will say that when it comes to the actual series itself, I hope they be more careful when and where they put certain moments, just so it doesn't drag on for too long like it did here. But outside of that, this pilot definitely was pretty strong. It gave us enough insight into the world and its characters, makes me want to see what happens next. I don't know if the comics continue the story or if the pilot is its own original story. I don't know, and I don't even know where to look to find out. But rounding back to the question I asked at the start of this video, is Lackadaisy worth the hype? Well, after watching it for myself, I'm going to be honest here, while it's definitely good, I don't think it's that good. To call it a masterpiece is just not accurate to me, simply because there's not enough here to justify that heavy praise. I definitely enjoyed my time with this pilot, but I feel like it was very minor in comparison to what it is they actually have planned for the future. Like, they only gave us an insight into what we might see. There wasn't really much to chew on in this pilot alone. It's a step in the right direction, but to call it a masterpiece, it's a bit inaccurate for me. The animation was definitely beautiful, with some great designs, although its sudden drop in pacing and dragged out ending definitely turned what could have been a bang of an introduction into more of a yeah, that's all I'm feeling. I'm not very excited to see where this story goes. I'm more intrigued. But what do you guys think? What do you have to say on this? Were you excited by Lackadaisy, or are you more skeptical like I am? I'm very interested to see what it is you guys have to say, because I know for a fact that a lot of people absolutely loved this pilot. And I know a few of you probably loved it as well. And if you're one of those people, that's awesome for you. Honestly, good for you. But regardless of what your stance is, whether you hate it or you enjoy it, I want to see your reasons for each down in the comments below. I want to see what you guys think about this, because honestly, my opinion's not enough here. We need to see what everyone thinks about this in order to make an accurate assessment, to be honest. And if you enjoyed today's video and you want to see more videos where I cover indie animation projects, then be sure to like this video and subscribe. But with that, peeps, it's been the Pink King here, and I will see you all next time.